Now, South African Airways is once again taking off, but this time to Brazil. The airline has relaunched the route to Sao Paulo. Now, this is its first intercontinental route since it emerged from bankruptcy 2 years ago. But in an effort to streamline its services, the airline is expected to cut jobs. Let's discuss this with Chris Shabangu from the South African Cabin Crew Association. Mr. Shabangu, good to have you with us this morning on the SA Morning. Your reaction to the relaunch of South African Airways. We do know that obviously as the SA Cabin Crew Association, you've been an intrinsic part of this whole process and a very key stakeholder in the functioning and the operations of South African Airways. Chris, you are muted. Could you please unmute yourself?
Oh, sorry about that. I'm saying good morning to you and good morning to your viewers. Yes, as South African Cabin Crew, we're happy that at least the airline is beginning to do business moving forward right now. Obviously, there are concerns, which we are hoping that they're going to be resolved. There are just lots of concerns, but we are happy that people are at least looking forward to getting their jobs back at the moment. We do expect glitches. We hope that there will be competent people that are going to be able to solve those glitches, particularly that are mostly importantly that are going to be, concerning the investment in the airline, capital investment in the airline. That's the most important part, so that the airline is able to sustain itself over a long period of time. Not only just the investment, but so that the business is able to actually make money on its own and sustain itself. That's of concern to us.
Well, this is a new look SAA with the government not as the sole shareholder anymore. Does this make a difference? Does this somehow abate your concerns?
No, remember at the moment as it stands right now, the government is still a sole shareholder. And all of those things need to be cleared. As I said earlier, the government is still a sole shareholder. There is no capital investor at the moment as we speak, because remember, there's still a Takatsu deal that's still hanging in the air, which we're not so sure how far is that going so far. We are concerned if ever the government is still going to be the only shareholder, unless there are changes. If the government is going to be a sole shareholder, it needs to be clear how much money they're going to be bringing in. There's $1 billion already that of course, the airline has just gone through. So there needs to be a clear path as to how much money is going to be invested if the government is still going to be the sole shareholder, and what are the changes that are going to be taking place, because there should be changes within SA in terms of management of the airline. If there is that Takatsu deal still going on, that needs to be cleared, and South Africans need to be told, workers need to be told that deal is going through, and if that deal is going through, let's go on and see how much money is coming in. And again, we're hoping that when Takatsu comes through, it's coming in also with competent management that's going to be able to run the airline. Remember, as it stands on our side, as much as we're saying we're happy that the airline is moving forward, we are concerned about the well-being of the workers that are there, the current workers, well-being of the workers that are there at the moment. That's a big concern to us, because there's a lot of change.
I'd like to talk about the workers, Chris, in just a moment. I want to finish off this issue. Are you saying that because it's business as usual with SAA and there hasn't yet been a finalization of the private stakeholder in this, that it will be business as usual? The very same issues that you were complaining about as the Cabin Crew Association, the working conditions, the salaries, the investment into South African Airways. Are you saying because those sizable changes have not been made that you are likely going to be going into exactly the same situation that you were in before?
I absolutely. I cannot add more out of what you said. We do expect that we might be going through the same thing. I mean, if we're just going to be putting money in the same situation, same airline that it was, what kind of changes would you really expect? If you give Christopher money, Christopher was running the airline, and airline was going down because of the decisions that were made at the time, and then you just change to version 2 because of business rescue, and you still have Christopher running the airline with the same business principles that he was running the airline, I mean, there won't be any changes there. Chances are you might just be getting a worse situation. Am I saying that the situation...
You have mentioned, Chris, obviously the business rescue process, which is what has led to the SAA now taking to the airlines again. Do you not believe that that intervention and that process is enough, and a significant enough change will be made because of that intervention?
It should have been. There should have been a significant change. But business rescue should have brought about a significant change. And unfortunately, I don't believe, or we don't believe as SACA, that there is that kind of significant change at the moment, really. There are good things that are happening. I mean, as I speak yesterday, there was a relaunch of the Sao Paulo route by South Africa, which is a good step forward, but it should be sustainable. It shouldn't be a situation where we say down the line, because of lack of investment in the airline, then the airline cannot sustain itself. It cannot even increase its routes to other destinations. It's a great airline that can do so. These days there's social media that's going on. I was just reading one of the social medias that even some public members are not even aware that South African Airways is flying. It's a big airline that should have been properly even put out there so that every South African understands that their national airline is back online. That's not a big issue. The biggest issue is that the national airline is back online with a good capital investment behind it, a very clear path as to where they're going. Yes, one expects the airline, if it's relaunched, to make some losses. In my view, that makes sense, because I mean you're coming back into a very competitive space as an airline, regardless of your name. But you're coming back to a very competitive space, so you will probably make some losses. But those losses, at least, you should have some kind of projected view as to when we think we can make a profit, or the airline is going to make profit. Right. As it stands, in my view, it's quite difficult to make that decision without proper capital investment.
Workers have been affected over the past few years with South African Airways. How many jobs in total have been lost, and how many of those jobs are now going to be reinstated because of SAA going back to the air?
It's thousands of jobs that were lost. I'm not going to even go back to prior to business rescue. Plus minus 4,000 plus jobs were lost. And remember, if you remember, we had then that issue where the business rescue said at least the airline should start with 1,000 people, and 1,000 people were put on TLS, meaning on training layoff scheme. Those people, in other words, were not working, but were supposed to be looked after by the airline. In other words, if there are opportunities, the airline was supposed to look to those people so that they can re-employ them back to the airline. As it stands, the airline didn't start with 1,000 people. It does not have 1,000 people as we speak. The number that we have, the last number we have as of about 3 months ago, at least, is about around, this is just a ballpark figure, about 800 that I can say. 850, but they're not at 1,000 as we speak. In other words, they haven't even met the number of the business rescue, or recommended by the business rescue practitioners, of 1,000. So the workers that are there already, we're supposed to be looking at 1,000 people that are starting the airline. Now, as much as we can argue that and say 1,000 people, you ask some questions that, okay, if we even insist that the airline should start with 1,000 people, where is the money going to come from to even look at take care of those 1,000 people? Is there space and work for those 1,000 people? Now, as a union, we're trying to be as reasonable as possible and say, okay, now if the airline is growing bit by bit, then look at those people that have lost their jobs during the business rescue, particularly those that were on TLS, and then obviously those that took voluntary packages, because even those that took voluntary packages, they were forced to do so. They had no choice. They had to take those voluntary packages. And thirdly, it is important that those people that are in the airline as we speak, that their work, their packages that they have, be quality packages, not what they have at the moment.
Chris, we're going to leave it at that for today, but clearly a lot of kinks still to be ironed out. Yes, we may celebrate SAA being on the air, but nowhere close to reinstating the number of jobs that have been lost. That's Chris Shabangu, President of the South African Cabin Crew Association. Thank you for your time.